All right, I think we're live. I'll give it a moment to catch up on the chat. Let me know when you can see me. I think we should be all set here. Let me know. Yes. 12. I'm here. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. There's a little bit of a, oh, you want me to do the intro still? I can do the intro still. Well, in today's video, we're going to talk about the transfer table. Every year I do a little bit of a transfer chart. I actually want to look at last year's as well, see how it went, see how everything has gone. It was really interesting. I was reviewing it yesterday, and it was better than I thought, funnily enough. But yeah, talk about this year's full list, everything. I apologize if I end up looking in both directions because I have things on two monitors to try to cover all of this. I usually do not do lives. So, but yeah, that's what we're going to do. So let's get into it. Let's do that little intro video and then we'll start. There we go. If you wanted it, you got it. You got it. Let me just tweet that I'm actually live now. Give me a second. Tweet, post. Am I allowed to say tweet anymore? Is it still not? It's not tweeting anymore? Okay. Does that work? Does that link actually work? All right, cool. We're here. We're ready. Yes. Well, you know, the music, I don't know why the music broke. It shouldn't have. It did. I didn't do anything, and it just kind of fixed it. But I need to do a stop detonating. I need to do a new one anyway. Yeah. So it is what it is. All right. Let me stop delaying again. Just for anybody joining. Jesus Christ. I have a hard time with these lives. I get too distracted. The comments are too funny. Yeah, giddy for Gareth. Don't worry, I will get into everything, but I do want to keep it somewhat structured so that I do not go off onto insane tangents, as I am prone to doing if I get too distracted. So thank you everybody for being here. Thank you everybody for watching. Let's get right into it. You know, so again, first and foremost, we're going to talk about the big transfer list. I'm not doing it at this point as a flow chart as of yet, because I think it's a little different this year, but I will start to outline all the scenarios. So let me click over. There we go. And let me move that over. I'm doing this the only way that I know how, which is in Adobe Illustrator, and able to do the things that I want to do. I'll explain this whole kind of chart. Yes, I'm in Mountain Time. I'll explain this whole kind of chart in a few minutes. But basically what I've done here is I've put together this a little bit in the style of Dan Ashworth's, what do you call it? Let me move the mic a little closer because I moved my camera. Hold on one second. In his stoplight style. Angie, go kill a man, the best channel for Manchester United. Keep it up. Great work. Thank you very much. Thank you. So I did it kind of in this. There's an article about a Dan Ashworth stoplight system where he talks about going red, yellow, green type of thing. And so I just did that in this sense. Now, you're going to see an absolutely absurd number of names on the screen, okay? That does not mean these are all realistic. My plan today on this video to make it for some interesting content and interesting kind of discussion with all of you is to go position by position. You can't see my mouse, can you? Okay, that's fine. It doesn't matter. Go position by position and move them into green, yellow, red based on the information that I have available. All of these names are not realistic signings. All of these names are not people we're going to sign. All of these names are not even people that I have information that we're interested in, but I've tried to put it together based on what I've heard as well as what is out there. And then I will, you know, kind of sort it based on my best understanding of the situation. It is early. It is early. It is early in the window. And so obviously early in the window, it's way before the window, it's early ahead of the window. So there's going to be, obviously a lot of potential changes to this kind of thing. Um, yeah, and there's probably some names that I want to add as I go through it. Like while we're talking here, I was thinking on the drive in to work here today that I forgot to add Jonathan David, who is somebody that United have been linked with in the past, and then I forgot to add Yao Neves, which I don't think is going to happen, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So we'll start to add more people into this and talk about that as we go through it. For me, I haven't added names that I do not feel have been reliably linked. You may disagree with me on some of that, but I got to run it on a little bit based on the way that I see certain things. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. Before we do it, I'm gonna go really quickly over to last year's chart in just a second, and I am going to yeah, I'm gonna just show you kind of the thinking that we went through last time, and how it kind of played out, which was rather interesting. Yes. All right, cool. So by the way, while I'm doing this, because I don't know how this has been set up on how the streaming works. Let me know. Does it play a lot of ads? Has anybody had any ads yet? Because I don't want it to be doing too many ads, and I don't want to talk too much while ads are playing. So if they're like, if you see an ad, type to me, because it doesn't even tell me when there's ads. There's been no ads. Okay, good. So there's been no ads at this point in time. That's good to know. So I didn't want it to go while I'm starting or anything like that. So cool. Awesome. All right. So then I'm going to switch over to I'm going to switch over to last year's really quickly, and then we will come right back to this because I just want to show you what I'm thinking and what I'm looking at on all of this. Oh, you just had an ad. Okay. All right. Cool. Good to know. Okay. Of course, you just got an ad right as I asked. Got one. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's switch back over here. This is slightly out of... That's not what I meant to do. Stream. I'm just going to move this. And my face is covering a lot of the stuff here. But this was last year's. And if you remember last year kind of walking through this, I put together a whole bunch of different scenarios and things. How it worked out in the end was priority number 1 was to get a striker. We got him. Somebody on the list, which was Rasmus Højlund. Priority number 2 was a goalkeeper, which I had a lot of people disagreeing with last year that we would sign a goalkeeper. Of course, we ended up signing a goalkeeper. It wasn't the name that I thought it would be in Diogo Costa, but it was of course Andre Onana. We signed an 8-10, which was one of the basic scenarios which we were getting, which was somebody on the list, Mason Mount. We did not sign a center back because Maguire did not depart, and we did not sign a permanent midfielder as McTominay didn't depart. So it actually worked out really well, and Wan-Bissaka had worked himself back, and we didn't sign a right back. So even though it didn't go 100% to plan, and usually doesn't, it actually went kind of to plan in terms of the priorities and who we went for. And this was put together way back in February. So just wanted to look at that really quickly here. What is this little box going on down here in the corner? I don't know. Anyway, let's start before I get too distracted on everything here. Let's start with striker. I'll talk about this scenario of whether we sign one or not, and then start moving everybody in here. So striker, and then you can ask your questions on striker, and then in each position I'll go through the different ones. I don't know anything. First of all, striker is obviously, it's a tricky position because we signed Rasmus Højlund, and we now have a young, Højlund was on last year's list. Because we now have a young striker, You don't like the green bar being a pixel off and it's driving you nuts. I think I noticed that yesterday and I left it on purpose just to bother people. I think the red one is slightly off too. Um, you know, uh, so striker wise, we have Rasmus Højlund. The tricky part with a young striker like him is you're probably not wanting to sign someone who's going to directly go over him. But you're going to want somebody competitive, and it's a little tricky. Like, you want someone who doesn't want to play a lot necessarily. Not doesn't want to play, they all want to play, but who won't expect to play a lot. So it's kind of like, yeah, you either get like a Cavani or you get someone younger and things like that. Yes, competition is good, but you also can't spend a lot of money. So there was a link to Petkovic. No idea about him. I thought it was a reliable link, so I left him in here. I think that an affordable older player for rotation is not a bad idea. And so, you could see something like that happening, even if it's not the right name. And that's why I'll put him kind of in yellow. As far as I understand, my understanding of Guirassy was never that was a good one, or necessarily a very reliable one. Brian Brobby. Let's talk about Brian Brobby. One of the things that's on this chart, one of the things with some of the names that are on this chart is they're very much driven by dependent on the manager situation, which I'm not going to discuss in detail right this second. I will talk about it, but it's very dependent on the manager situation. I'm going to move Petkovic to red just because I don't think there's particularly much reasonable at the moment, but it's the right idea. Brobby is very dependent on the manager situation. If Ten Hag is here, then it's far more likely he's a player he will ask for. He has asked for him in the past. He has asked for him in the past. He has pushed for him in the past. He's wanted to sign him in the past, and I think that would be someone he would push for. So we're going to move Brian Brobby into yellow. Šeško. Šeško is is somebody that United were very interested in before. They have still been maintaining. I'll talk about Ten Hag at the end a little bit. They've still been maintaining a watchful eye on him. They have still been looking at him. I think that the interest in him is a bit lower. I think he's a player that probably needs to play a bit more, but I'm going to put him as well in the yellow area. Ivan Toney has and Šeško has a pretty decent release clause, so it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea at all in there to get someone like him in for rotation in the striker area. When you're talking about 43 million, I think you can get a really talented player who can work in there for not that much money. Ivan Toney, I think there's two problems with him. Too expensive, and his attitude issues. There's been a lot of talk that this attitude, some of the things, in a line with what he's said, interviews, things like that he's done have been very very off-putting to people, and he's not going to want to really rotate. Yes, United have had 4 strikers in the past when they played a 2 up top. We do need more than 3 forwards who are at a high level, but you really don't need, it's a little bit different. Yeah. Toney, there's a lot of reasons not to think Toney is not going to happen. I'm going to put him in the red at the moment because of cost and because the attitude things are even turning people off away from him. Jonathan David is another player that I would say is a little bit Ten Hag dependent. I've talked about him, I think, a year ago. I think I had him on last year's list, and I mentioned that he's somebody that Ten Hag really likes, that he wanted to sign, and but I don't think it's somebody that the club are really keen on. I don't think he's very good either, frankly. He's been kind of trying to get a move for ages, and everybody has been avoiding him. So I'm going to put him in red. So given this, I don't really have any greens, and that's probably accurate at this point in time because I would say it is not realistic at this point, nobody is a standout. Yes, it's likely we're going to sign him. There's a chance we don't sign a striker at all, and we sign wingers and other forwards. But if I was going to put one, maybe I put Šeško up there for now. Yeah, that might be it. But otherwise, there have not been a lot of good links. So even still, I don't think it would be fair to put anybody in green. So I'm just telling you how I'm going to do it. In some cases, we may not have anybody green. I see Xerxes. Has anybody really linked us to Xerxes? Has anybody really linked us to Xerxes? Because I have not really seen any good information about Xerxes. When Fabrizio says that we will sign a striker, I think that you have to weigh in the difference in what people say when they say striker. It doesn't always mean a 9. Fabrizio and others, especially outside of England, have oftentimes said striker when United have been looking at wingers, things like that too. So I wouldn't think too much into it. I'm not going to bite so much on Xerxes just on the basis of one link from Florian Plettenberg. That's just how it is. So I don't see a great striker link at this point in time, and I think it's because of things. Whereas Šeško is somebody who is on the list. So I would say, that might be the case. In terms of, I obviously there's a lot of questions on Mason Greenwood, but I would say the most likely thing is he leaves. That he leaves United, goes back to Spain. Evan Ferguson is very expensive, and Gyökeres would also be very expensive, and I probably butchered his name. He'd also be very expensive. I'm not saying we won't get somebody, but we've been here before. 2 years ago, he said we'd get a striker. We didn't get it. It's too early to be sure that we get anything at the point in time. I think we will. But I don't think that the person we get is at all clear at the moment as far as a striker goes. But yeah, someone like Gyökeres, I would think is, and again, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I've only watched on Portuguese streams and things like that. But he will be very likely, I would say, think about Arsenal for someone like him. Think about Arsenal. I don't think we're going to be spending the kind of money it would take to get him. Yeah, Xerxes will not rotate with Højlund. He left Bayern because he wants to play as a starter. Yeah, it is very difficult. It's very difficult. Gyökeres. Yeah. Oh shit. Hold on a second. Give me 1 second. My Adobe is having issues, and I'll come back to this. There we go. All right. We're back. Anyway, yeah, I don't see a standout at the moment, so we'll see. Yeah, there's guys like, Nketiah and all of that, of course. But, yeah, we need a little bit of rotation. I think that'll come clear closer to summer. Let's talk about the right wing position, because as far as I gather it, it's still very much something that United are interested in. Yeah, I see names that people are saying, yeah, the black box went away. That's good to know. I see a lot of there's again, guys, there's going to be a million names that are being suggested, but I am really trying to stick with ones that I know. That's someone that I know about these players and all of that. So on the right wing, it's still considered, as far as I gather, a priority that United have more wingers, have more people that they can bring in who, play at a high level. And look, the thing about it is you have three good players in the forward line right now. As soon as someone comes out, you see a massive drop off. Okay. You see a massive drop off going from, we've seen it in games. We saw the difference ever since we put Rashford, Højlund, and Garnacho in the front three as compared to what we had before. A huge difference in the level of performance. nobody who wins things operates at that level where you just have 3 players who can fit and that's it. Nobody does. Manchester City regularly rotate with 5 forwards. Liverpool regularly rotate with 6 forwards. You don't want the levels to drop off as soon as you make a change. You get 50 to 60 games a year, and that's 3 positions. That gives you 150 to 180 games for your 3 forwards. Okay, they cannot start 50 to 60 each. Ideally, you want your best ones. You want 4 of them starting around 40 games, and then you want another one to be a good rotation, to come in for injuries, and to be. We absolutely 100% need to sign forwards where at top level, when we make rotations, when we make changes, the form doesn't drop off. And looking at it and thinking after this year, because of one game against Liverpool, that suddenly Antony's going to be great, and because he scored a 90-minute goal, or Ahmad, who's played 45 minutes of first-team football, is going to be the solution, is not the forward thinking. It's very much the old way of thinking. The Glazers would say, we've got Antony, we already spent the money. We've got Ahmad, who could come in, we've already spent the money, so we're not going to buy anybody else. That's not the level of thinking that is needed in order to be successful to the highest level. The top teams have an enormous amount of wealth when it comes to forwards. Look at Madrid, look at these clubs, look at Barcelona, look at everybody. We can't be reactive. We have to be proactive on the front, and we can't score goals. Look at it. We do not score enough goals. We have scored so few goals this year. It is obviously an area of problem, and when you don't have enough people, then you burn out. So big thing here. So let's talk about the names. First and foremost, I'm putting Olise right away into green. As far as I understand, somebody United really like. He has a release clause that is not too expensive. He would love to join United, and they've been watching for a long time. There's essentially 2 major questions with it. Number one is he's got to come back. He's in training. He's got to come back and play through the rest of the season from his hamstring injuries, and make sure that he's healthy through the end of the year. I think that's a valid concern. I think that's something he would have to prove in order to not have doubts about him. He would have to show he can stay healthy, and that this isn't an issue, that this hamstring issue that he's had, which is the same hamstring, not a string of many injuries over years, but he'd have to show that. And I think that would be the biggest question mark. Look, there's guys like Shea Lacey who are incredible talents, 16 years old, right? You don't not sign players because you have those players. That's not how you do it, okay? So yeah, yes. So anyway, let's that's what we've got to look at. It's not about believing in talent. There's so many talented players that are on good teams, and they still have 5-6 forwards at a reliable level. You need more guaranteed performance. Someone like Ahmad could also end up coming into the midfield, quite honestly, as a 10 or as a right center mid and all of that. Yeah, I don't know that his way forward is as a winger. I really don't. Nico Williams is someone that United have been watching. I don't believe that he's I don't believe that he's the top target. They've been looking at him. There's a lot of clubs interested in him. But another interesting player for sure. Daniel Malin. This is somebody that, as I said on the podcast earlier, and I said this earlier in the year as well, he's someone that obviously Ten Hag would be interested in. He's Dutch. He shares the same agency. He's somebody that Ten Hag would like. If he's here, Dortmund will try to use him in a swap deal for Jadon Sancho. I'm putting him in red because the club don't want him. And I don't think that they will be just getting him, regardless of Ten Hag. But, that's one that maybe would be adjusting later, depending on the situation. But no, I do not think that that will be getting him. Yeremy Pino is also going to go in red. I have him as a name that we had watched for a while. He's got a major ACL injury at the moment. Pedro Neto, he's going in red for the same reason. He cannot stay healthy. Doesn't have an ACL injury, but absolutely 100% cannot stay healthy. They want too much money. He's injured yet again. He has not finished 20 league games in 4 years. It's not going to happen. That'd be a huge risk. And then there's Antonio Nusa. No, Nusa. Yeah, Antonio Nusa. I'm going to put him in yellow. He's a young winger that United looked at before, plays at Club Brugge. I think he's just one to keep an eye on. That is somebody that has been watched, that's been rated well. Tottenham looked at him before, I think. Brentford looked at him before. I would keep him in your ears and eyes about this. And ads. Yeah, thank you. I understand. Okay, good to know. It's only been like 3 in 25 minutes. It's pretty good. I think Nusa can play both sides. Yeah, he was close to joining Brentford. I think Nusa could play both sides. I think that Cole Palmer, yeah, I would take Cole Palmer. Man, I would take Cole Palmer. Marcus Edwards is somebody that United have looked at, but I think a lot of clubs have avoided him because he's not that good. Yeah, so that's what I would leave it at that point in time. Yeah, I don't know if you're, there's different people who will get different ads at different times. I don't actually know how it works. I know there's been talk about Rooney, but I've only really seen that from one place, and I'm not sure at this point in time. Yeah. So, cool. Let me just see if there's anything else. Yeah. Yeah, Marcus Edwards, he could go on there, but I don't think that he's going to be particularly of interest at the moment. I'm going to talk about right back. This one is a little bit up in the air. Olise does have a release clause. That's part of the thing, too. He has a release clause. It could be a lot easier. At right back, United have been looking at right backs for a long time over questions before Dalot had come good. They were looking at right back. They were looking at a lot of different things, and this one's a little tricky now because at the start of the season, you might have said that right back was a big priority. Now, at this stage of the year, is it? Diogo Dalot has that position nailed on, right? You're not going to replace Diogo Dalot as a starting right back at this point in time. I mean, it would be hard. You look at the names on this list, are any of them an upgrade on how Diogo Dalot has played this year? I don't think so. And that's from somebody who had huge doubts about Dalot. I think there's certain areas in the attacking third that he could improve a lot, but yeah. Wan-Bissaka, the situation is kind of depending. I think so you could get somebody young, but these are the players they've looked at. Dumfries, Frimpong, Kyle Walker-Peters. Kyle Walker-Peters, maybe he could play left back as well and put him on that side, so maybe that changes things. Yeah, I don't know that we need a right back at this point in time. It obviously depends on Wan-Bissaka. If he stays, if he goes, then obviously we'll need some depth in that position. It also depends on, obviously, if there's a manager change, you might see a difference in how the fullbacks are viewed. Just if you ended up with a 3 at the back manager, you have a different view of the fullbacks. But I think Dalot would do that job just as well as anyway. Kyle Walker-Peters coming into the last 12 months of his contract. That's a good point. And so maybe he's somebody who could flexibly play both sides. So I don't know. I don't know where to put any of these, frankly, because I don't know if they're really targets at this point in time. I'll put Kyle Walker-Peters in yellow because of a few situations. He could be depth on the right and the left. Dumfries is somebody United had a lot of interest in, but I think he'd want to start, and Dalot has it nailed down, so I would put him in red. Devin Wrench is somebody who's kind of flexible too, but he is very much as well a Ten Hag target. I think when we first signed Ten Hag, the first summer, I'd heard him mention that he might want to bring him through when Ten Hag joined us as manager. And he's had a couple years. If he's here, he might ask for him as somebody who could go over there, but I think it's unlikely. At this point, I'm not really thinking any are likely, but I'm going to keep Kyle Walker-Peters in the yellow just in case at this point. In terms of left back, I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. I struggle to even add any names to the list because we haven't really been linked to anybody. We haven't really been linked to anybody at all. Besides some old things where we were watching, a Nuri before, and so I kept him on the list. We met with uh, we met with Barcelona, obviously Murtaugh and them. There's potentially ways that Balde. There was talk from Barcelona's side that they might let him go. He would obviously be a top signing from there. We will not get Gutierrez, as far as I understand. That's why I haven't included him. I probably should and put him in the red. You might as well. I'm not saying that he's not a player that United don't like, but as I either understand, it's very likely to go somewhere else. So we could stick him in here. Yeah, he's gonna go somewhere else. Yeah, I don't know with these ones. These ones are really tricky. I have a lot more on these other positions, these fullbacks. I'm practically clueless as to what we're gonna do in those positions yet. Prior to this season, left back was not considered a priority, right? Because you had Malaysia, you had Shaw. Now Malaysia's missing the entire season, and Shaw's injuries have ramped up again. That's kind of problematic. Again, guys, I know on those names, but there's no real valid links to them. They're good suggestions, but it's not me you have to suggest it to. There's just not really been any solid information of United being interested in them. And if there were, then we could put them on here. So I don't want to get into the rest of it, go too far into talking about all of those guys, okay? I'm going to put him in yellow just because I have an inkling, but not nothing major. And then I'm going to put Aitnuri in red. So don't hold me to that. But that's one that I think would be interesting. And yeah, I think that there's chances more could be added to this. There's young players, but that's why I kept kind of Kyle Walker-Peters on the other side too, because United have been interested and he can play both sides. Let's move on to center back. Now, you're obviously, I have them positioned kind of as left center back and right center back. I have Lucanets, no. I have them left center back, right center back. They're not always 100% like one side or the other. You have a lot of young players on here who can play center, who can play right, who can play left. Even if they're left-footed, they're more flexible than that. Players like Braithwaite are viewed as players that you don't have to necessarily play on the left. But I'm sticking Braithwaite in green right off the bat for part of this discussion. Because Gerard Braithwaite is somebody that I know United have already been looking into and have, essentially spoken to people around him to gauge his interest. They've been following him for years now at this point in time. They were interested in him last summer. Everton have issues, obviously financially, and are going to likely need to sell. He would 100% he would love to move. I'm quite sure, as far as I understand, he'd be willing to. Amazing, really, yeah, he is a talent, and I think he could be available for 60-70 million, and that would be best. I think he's far and away the most likely center back signing this summer right now, but obviously there's a more. Have you just noticed the boxes are arranged in relevant position? Thank you. Yeah, I did that on purpose, and I'm really lucky. We also don't need a left wing, or there wouldn't be anywhere for my face, so that's good. One position we don't need to sign players in. So, yeah. Yeah, a lot of these players, like I said, are somewhat flexible. Tapsoba, there's been good links to. United have been watching him. I would put him in yellow. Gonzalo Inacio, United have been watching for a long time, are quite interested in him. I think that one, I'm going to keep it in yellow because it's interested. Yeah, I'll play left wing. But I'm not sure, not highly likely, but he's definitely someone that United have been watching for a long time as well. I had information on him last summer that they were interested in him. I don't know. Tapsoba plays in a back three, so it's a little complicated. Again, they're probably flexible, so don't read too much into the left and right side of it. I'm just going through them. Guehi would be really expensive. Really expensive. I think he's a great player, but really expensive. And I think it would be hard to get somebody like him. Yes, I think with Braithwaite, while 70 million might be at the top end of pricing, you could get a structured kind of deal into there that would make it work. And again, I think don't overthink too much the left center backs and right center backs. Bastonia has been someone on United's list, but I severely doubt that they would be able to acquire him this summer, so we're going to put him in red. Todibo, let's put him in. Give me Bremer. Todibo, let's put him in. Let's put him in. Yeah, let's put him in. Of all the center backs on this side, I'll put him in green. Somebody they've obviously been interested in. Somebody that's obviously there's been a lot of stuff. Yeah, Bastogne would be very expensive. A lot of talk, and he obviously plays for Nice, so there's a little bit more in terms of links there. Yeah, Tapsoba, there was issues with him not wanting to come to United, but that was before. We'll see. Todibo, we'll keep in. We'll put him in green. I'm not saying it's most likely, but of these center backs, I think he's certainly more likely on these kind of sided center backs. Antonio Silva is someone United have really liked, but really expensive at this point. Unless they don't sign another center back, he's unlikely. We'll put him in yellow. Euro's going to go to Madrid almost definitely. Simakan, there was interest in him before. He can kind of play right back too. I haven't heard a thing in a long time about him. I put him in from last year, so I'm going to put him in red at this point in time. Bremer, Bremer is obviously there were some links recently to Bremer. From the information I've got, I haven't been too keen on it. There's links to him for sure, good links, especially on the Italian side, but I have not had good information that we're particularly interested in him. So from my side, I'm putting him in the red side of things. Scalvini, somebody that United are indeed watching, are interested in, so I would add him to the list. I have no idea who Lukumi is, and he's not on my lists here. Schurz is once again somebody who they have been. I'm going to put him in red. They watched him before. Someone that Ten Hag has watched at least. He's came from Ajax. Yeah, and yeah. So I'm going to put him in red. He was also somebody kind of on the list from before, so we'll keep him there. Scalvini isn't a DM or CB. I don't know. You tell me what he is. Maybe he's in the midfield. Hold on one second. Just looking up something for myself. He plays as a center back. What do you mean? He plays as a center back. He's a center back. What are you talking about? I'm quite sure he's a center back. I've not heard anything about Diomande. Araujo is somebody that they really liked for a long time, but is obviously very likely to stay at Barcelona. Has had quite a bit of injury issues as well. So yeah, Scalvini is the center back for Atalanta. I'm not sure what people are throwing out there. So anyway, this is what I would put in here. I have not really heard any strong interest in Tosin. It's an interesting name given that he's a free agent and all of that, but I haven't really heard that there's much by way of him. Scalvini could move into the midfield. Okay, I mean, that would be a flexible, interesting kind of position. Yeah, let's go through the midfield, and then I'll start to answer some more questions. There's like a million things in chat, so it's obviously a little tricky for me to follow all the comments. But let me get through this because it's already been 40 minutes. Let's talk about midfield, and then I'll answer questions, talk about Ten Hag and all that. So midfield-wise, obviously, you have questions about the differences of, you have Eriksen who could potentially leave. Obviously, we see he's kind of unhappy with his time there. We have McTominay, who's really playing more as a forward. Casemiro, I don't think it's somebody that we can necessarily rely on next year. He could go to, He could go to what do you call it? He could go to Saudi. So there's obviously mixtures of different profiles here in terms of midfield, but at the end of the day, the Athletic says Araujo is likely to be sold for Barcelona. I saw comments today that they might be renewing his contract if he wants to, but hey, it could be. I mean, I would put Araujo on the list if it becomes clear that he might be sold, but I'm not ready to get hurt again. United were really interested a few years ago. So yeah, in terms of the midfield, let's talk about them because there's different different types here, obviously, and this is going to be really dependent. But what I can say is this, Ezequiel Palacios has been somebody that they looked at before strongly. Is he the best partner for Kabi Menu? Probably not. They're both kind of not the tallest players. You'd probably be lacking a little bit of physicality there. But he is a really good player in a really good team at Leverkusen that United have been interested in before. Probably wouldn't be too expensive. Great engine, great work rate, great defensive work. I could see why he would be a usable player in the team. So I'll put him in there. Amadou Onana is somebody that is fantastic, right? He's obviously an incredible player. I think he'd be my top choice in the midfield by far. The physical traits that he has, what he could become is pretty special. My concern is between Branthwaite, Onana, the costs involved with it, that it would be hard to do. But because we don't know all the scenarios, on an individual basis, I'll put him in green because the interest was really strong at one point in time. That's the issue, right? Is like when you weigh all the scenarios together, I can't see Branthwaite and Onana, but when you separate them out, Onana could be green on his own. But obviously, when you put all these scenarios together, then it's a bit more difficult. Hillman, I will put in green as well. He would be a player that would be realistically priced, who would, I think, fit really well next to Kabi Menu as a midfielder who's been watched. And I think he's really strong. I think he's got a lot of really good traits that would fit, into things. So, yeah, I think he's a good option. He's a good option that they could get in there. Sean McNicholas, love the content you make. Keep it coming. Thank you very much, man. Really appreciate that donation and all that. Really do. Hackney. There was some links to Hackney. I don't know what kind of player he is. Hackney, and I think that, but there were some decent links to him, so I'm gonna stick him in yellow. I don't know if he's the type of player that would make a good partner, but we do need more young midfielders too, who have potential to kind of come in and play alongside, what we have at the moment. So I'll put him in there. I don't know what type of player he is actually. Carrick referral. Oh yeah, he plays at Middlesbrough. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's right. So it's an interesting one. Yeah, Hillman is an Arsenal fan, but so what? I doubt that they're going to be getting that. Cheek Doucouré, very unlikely. Someone we liked a lot before from Palace. Someone we've watched. He's also injured at the moment, I believe. Neves, a really talented player, 100 million. I would almost definitely rule out the possibility of spending that kind of money on a young player that also doesn't really match profile to fit next to Kabi Menu. Sorry to say, I don't see it in that respect. Zubimendi is someone that United have watched. Very, very good player. I put him in yellow because they've watched him for a long time. I have no idea the realisticness of him coming in to the midfield. Archie Gray is a Leeds kid, right? That's been watched, but I think the realisticness of that is extremely low at this point in time from by all accounts. Mikel Merino, I don't really know anything about. Zubimendi might be a bit similar to Mainu as well. Trying to match up these profiles is partially why I've got these players up in the green. might not have space in the yellow here, but I would move both Thuram and Fofana into yellow. Last year, we were interested in and kind of attempted to make moves for both of those players at different points in times, and made contact, and we're making offers for them. They're both players that could probably fit into the midfield, that could play alongside it. I'm not saying they'd be the top choice, but they're both players that there's been some interested in. There's been some interest in. And so, I would keep those in yellow too. I think there's a lot. Yeah, this is likelihood. This is likelihood, and on an individual basis. The green, yellow, red is likelihood and such based on my understanding of things. We don't want to rely on Cobby, but when you're building the mid, we do want to rely on Cobby. But yes, it's unfair to say he's got to play 60 games and all of that, but you still want to structure your midfield around your best players. Yeah, I don't know what other people have said on all this. I'm not necessarily an expert. I'm just talking, in a sense, more what we've actually offered, what we've actually looked at in the past, and where we've actually gone. I will go through and put priorities on all of this. Right now, I would tell you that from my information, it would be the right wing area, the midfield, and the center backs that are the biggest priorities at this point in time. There's a lot of options in the midfield. It's going to really depend upon who leaves, who departs, where they go, what happens to the end of the year. Some of these are going to change even with that. It's not that they're not looking, but yeah, let's say through the end of the year, that Mason Mount really nails down a position, really starts playing well. Well, now you have to consider, okay, you probably want definitely more of a deeper combative midfielder and less, box-to-box type of player. I don't know. So there's a lot of flexibility in the priorities still, but I would say these are right now the players I would keep the most eye on at the moment, and this is likely to change. What I want to do is take this and then perhaps, end of April, do another one, keeping them here where in the positions they're in now in terms of green, yellow, and red, and then move them. Say, okay, well, based on what we're seeing, this one is probably lower. Based on new information, this is a name we want to add to this list. Like Rasmus Højlund last year. Early on, he was like maybe a low chance, and by March and April, there was good information that he was probably going to be the striker signing. And then they did. Mason Mount was the same. It maybe started a little lower, and then it rose up. So, we'll want to redo this multiple times, through up and through summer and then into summer. And I'll probably try to do this once a month and keep up with it as well. Because, there's a lot of things that depend. Do we get Champions League? How much can we spend on players? Where do we end up in the season? Is there a change in manager? Is there not? These are things that are going to change the priorities. Not necessarily all the names, but the priorities, certainly. So there's a lot of things that kind of go into this, because, different people will have different ideas in terms of where they prioritize and how they view players and all of that as well. So I think that is, that's something that's definitely going to change overall. R. Rash says the Southgate rumors. I'll talk about the manager in a minute. I'm almost done with this. So I'm not going to go into a bunch of names that I don't have on here, because if I didn't put their name on here as of now, I don't find them, necessarily credible. Let's put it that way. Okay. At the moment, okay, if I don't have them on the list, I don't find them credible in terms of people we're potentially signing this summer. That's, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. So, that's why I haven't put some names on here. It's okay. Yeah, I could have some mods, but if you just put in names and things over and over, believe me, I've seen it, and I'll answer you if there's anything in it. So tell me any questions on the people that I've actually put on this list, and the way that it's laid out. Any thoughts on it that you have? Any questions that you want answered? thank you again to people who donated and put those things in. That's very nice to do that. You appreciate it very much. So yeah, let me know any questions on here, on what I've got on here overall. Holman is a boyhood Arsenal fan, has Arsenal tattoo on his arm. And think that affects anything with us? No, not really. Unless they try to sign him, and I'm not sure they would. Even then, how many United fans are playing for other clubs? Onana's, oh wow, that got a lot of questions. Onana's rough price would be, I don't know, 60 to 70 as well, though, I think, but I think it would be challenging with all of that. Rush Mono, hi James, the 50, I believe the labors will go in 18 months. Is that your thoughts too? Yeah, slightly off topic, but let me answer that for you. When the last live I did actually was, I think, right after Sir Jim had confirmed things. And my reading of all of the information is it's well lined up for Sir Jim to buy more of the club over the next 1 to 2 years. I think there's a lot of structures of the deal already in place for it to make it easy to kind of repeat what they've done and have him continue taking chunks out of it. Do I think they'll be 100% gone in 18 months? No. I do think that he will own more of the club in the next 18 to 24 months and potentially even a majority of the club in that time. It's not a fact. It's not like there's a done deal behind the scenes, but there's a lot in the structure of that deal that implies the possibility of that. There's a lot of things that were asked for in it that open the door for Sir Jim to do that. So I think there's something with that. Ineos brief about targeting PL Rally players at the younger age profile. Yes. I mean, look at the top players here: Onana, Holman, Branthwaite, Todibo, Olise. A lot of younger players in here. And I think that's important. Frimpong's lower than Kyle Walker-Peters because he would be more expensive and probably be a starter. We have Diogo Dalot. The Olise one makes complete sense from a talent acquisition view. Yes. If we sell Anthony, perhaps. If he's not doing well, maybe he gets loaned out somewhere else to restart his career. And then, the crazy part about all of this is right now you have, with United, you have Jadon Sancho and Mason Greenwood, two players who have at times had enormous amounts of talent and value that they can't use, as well as Anthony, who they spent a lot of money on. Has so many players, has so much value that is essentially not factoring into our team at the moment. Some of that could change too, right? Obviously, if there's a manager change, maybe it changes things for Sancho. I still think he wants to leave, but either way, maybe it does. So these are the types of things that can change. When you're asking me price tags, especially if they're outside of England, I have no clue. I actually have no clue at all. I would not know better. Yeah, Jack, you put that's why I tweeted or posted under your thing last week about what you put together. I've put a lot of these names out through the year, so it makes sense. And a lot of them have rumors. It makes sense to me as the most ideal kind of way of moving forward, and it feels like they're moving in the right direction. One of the biggest things that I hope for is that they actually follow through on a lot of the names. When I looked at last year's, it was better. Mount and Højlund were on the list. Onana was okay too. They actually did well sticking to the list, and it worked out better. Those are good signings. The prior year went completely awry. Many times they have not followed the lists that are being put together by scouts and things like that, and it's gone to shit essentially in the end. So hopefully under the new ownership, new direction, they stick with things a little bit better. Budget for sale before sales. I think we could spend a lot. I'd just say that I think we could spend a lot. Coop Miners from Atalanta. I don't think so, guys. Let's see. If Maguire, Varane, and Lindelof all leave, then you see multiple, maybe 3 signings. It's crazy. Ranabir, hope you and the family well. Russell Martin being considered for manager. I'll talk about the manager stuff in a minute here. Šeško's release clause of $43 million. Šeško's release clause. Updates on Gaetan and Schneider. Their planes are still en route. Longest flight ever. They're on the plane with Delit as well. Ooh, I'm now going to get questions on whether he's actually on the list or not, but I don't think so. Who within the new structure is responsible for setting on a style of play? I'm sorry if I'm picking random questions, but there are a lot. It will be the director. Dan Ashworth, in conjunction with technical directors and all that, will be looking at, this is the way we want to play. This is the way we want to set things up. This is how we want to move things forward from top to bottom. Kimmich was not an option for us. Kimmich is definitely not an option for us. Varane, I think, will go, but that's also a bit manager dependent, and that's why some of these priorities can change. If there's a change in manager, change in situation, maybe he changes too. Maybe, you know, he's free to sign a contract with anyone in Europe outside of England right now, and he hasn't yet. I'm not putting Frankie de Jong on the list, just on principle. You guys, I don't think the budget's been decided yet, but I do think that during this 2-week period, they're going to start firming these things up a little bit more. So even these names, more contact starting to happen, you know, and that's why I think in a month we might get a different view of this, and there might be a lot of information that comes out over the next month. So I want to explain and talk about some of the ways that information works and how this relates to the whole manager situation, as well as these directors. Look, they're going to move forward. Jason Wilcox is a pretty simple deal once they're ready to do it. Ideally, they want to agree on the whole Dan Ashworth thing first. Then ideally, they want to move forward with getting like a technical director in, like I mentioned before. You know, someone like Kyle McCauley is an option, but there's probably more. A lot of people like Omar Barada is already working on things and all of that. So let me talk about a couple of things when it comes to information and the midfield and the manager and all of that. And then I'll try to get some other questions. I can't get to everything, but I do want to make sure I get to the vast majority of the general ideas. So if you think about the way that United are set up at the moment, and you have almost essentially what is information people who are almost way above the scope of any sort of information, right? We saw this with the takeover. It was totally silent while Ineos were involved. Totally silent in the media. And this isn't tooting my own horn or anything like that, or giving anybody this isn't a pride point, but there was basically no information about what is happening above a certain level. When you're talking about people who are in the Ineos structure that are running Manchester United now, there are very few connections had by people in media with information at that level. Very, very few. And so when most everybody was thinking it's quiet, there's nothing happening, there's no workings, we obviously were able to put out information about meetings, about discussions occurring, about Ineos being acting as if they were preferred bidders for a long period of time, trying to work out, just finalizing the deal. That was the case. Information gets out when things start to go down a level. So when you talk about the manager, I want to make a couple of things really clear on this, because I don't want to imply to people the wrong thing, but I also have to stick with some of the things that I have heard and that I understand about the situation too. You've got a lot of people talking about, the decision hasn't been made, there's nothing there, it will be made end of the season, all of that. They're not wrong in a sense, but it's sort of, there's a difference in a way between a decision being made and a decision being taken. Okay? From what I gather, there's been thinking about the manager situation. I've said this before, since before Ineos were even in place, about having, what's the word for it, alternative alternatives, backup plans, things like that. And they've been doing that for a long time. They've been looking at alternatives to the situation for a long time. The decision about whether Ten Hag will stay is not, as far as I understand, I've said this many times now, just like, well, we'll wait, and if we get Champions League, he stays. If we don't get Champions League, he goes. If you think about it from both sides of things, why contingency plans, yes. If you think about from both sides why that doesn't make any sense. Let's say in the final game of the year, United are within 1 point of it, and Tottenham draw. And it's the 90th minute, and United are level. They get a goal, they qualify for Champions League. They don't get a goal, they don't qualify for Champions League. Now, tell me that a good management structure who is thinking about the 3-year plan will be giving or taking away a manager's job based on what happens between 90 minutes and 95 minutes in one game, and how that makes any sense. It's not really logical. It's not really logical. It's not the way that people like, that are involved in something like Ineos think. It's not. It doesn't make any sense. There's no real logic in that. That is not going to tell you whether... I understand results business, but that's different. That is a reactionary, emotional decision that tells you nothing about how you're going to perform next season. If you're talking about next season or this season or how you're going to perform in the future, that 5 minutes tells you virtually nothing about what is going to happen. Let's say they're thinking, yeah, Ten Hag's going to be in, and then he concedes a goal in the final 5 minutes. We're winning 3-2, concede a goal in the final 5 minutes to draw 3-3 and drop out of Champions League. Would it be fair to take the job away from him on that basis? No, it'd be absolutely ridiculous. Same as it would be to only give it to him based on that. It would be almost ridiculous to suggest that. I don't think a lot of people are suggesting that, but that doesn't really sort of add up to things. So their decision overall is taking in an enormous number of factors and looking at a long-term plan. And as I shared a little bit ago, my understanding of it is that they wanted to make a decision this month. That they just wanted to make a decision this month, and that would allow them to start planning. And there's different levels of planning and all of that go into this, but there's difference in decision making. If they make a decision at the highest level, that doesn't mean they're going to be telling anybody that the decision has been made, and they're definitely not going to be taking the decision. They have not told anyone anything. There's been zero clarification provided to senior staff at United, to Erik ten Hag, or to his agent or anyone around him about what is going to happen next season. They have not confirmed or done anything at this point in time in order to let him know. Now, you can read into that one way or another as to what that means. They have the opportunity to confirm him for next year. They have not announced and will not say anything, and they likely will not say anything, no matter what. And the decision will not be taken until they do, until the season essentially is nothing left to play for. If we get knocked out of the FA Cup, which seems unlikely now, so that's going to the end. But also more primarily, if we get lost from Champions League positions, then it would be more realistic to start to maybe announce what the decision is. So, yeah, it's a tricky situation. What I can tell you is that I have a lot of certainty that they pretty much know what they're going to do. I'm not saying I know for a fact what that is, but I'm quite certain that they know what they're going to do. About as certain as I was through the whole takeover process over those months about things, about you know, about how they felt. I believe at the highest level they already kind of know what they're going to do, but as I say that, people are going to think that my opinions or such influence what that is. I can't say for 100% either way which one it is, because I haven't been told that. So I don't want people to take me saying that to mean XYZ is happening. Personally, I would say that when you look at overall some of the disagreements on things like, powers that are granted to the manager and all of that, there's been some articles from Mullock recently, very recently, on Ten Hag potentially walking if he doesn't have power. To me, those are implications that they have not resolved some of these issues. I think a while ago I said, I tweeted out, I said my biggest piece of advice to Ten Hag would be to, accept what is on offer from Ineos and to take, to take what they're saying the job is and not fight with it, because that is going to be a requirement. They're not the type of people to compromise on important things. So, yeah, I mean, I have my own suspicions based on things. I have my own suspicions based on him not being confirmed yet. I have my own suspicions based on, contingency plans. I have my own suspicions based on a lot of things. But I do believe that they have, with the type of people they are and the things that I've heard, I do not believe they're waiting to the end of the year to make that decision at the higher level. And I think that nobody's going to know about it. Look at how nothing leaked about Omar Barada ahead of time. Absolutely nothing. Not till the day it happened did anything come out about it at all. Not till the day it happened did anything come out. And so that conversations between Ineos and Barada as CEO are not leaking. You know that they're not. Things with Ashworth, there was rumors about them wanting him, but it only came out once they actually made an approach. And so until they actually make approaches, they're not going to be any leaks about this. And they're not talking to a bunch of managers now and starting to get into it and recruit people. Don't take that to mean that. They're not doing that. Ten Hag will be here through the end of the season, at least. That has been the case for a long time. So, they're not, and the reason I'm only saying this is that I think it's important to understand that they're not going to make a reactionary decision either way. They're going to look at and probably have decided what is the best plan moving forward, if Ten Hag is the best person moving forward, and then that is where they will end up, kind of almost regardless of what happens. We'll see what that comes out, when that comes out, and what happens with it. But I think it is really important to understand that is how they're making that decision. I'm fairly, almost totally positive of that. I'm almost completely positive that is the case, and it is not a reactionary type of decision or a knee-jerk based on the final games of the year. I don't think we'll get in someone like Gareth Southgate, but it is what it is. I don't think we're going to get Gareth Southgate. I wouldn't worry about that as of right now, okay? So we'll see. There's going to be obviously a huge divide on opinion. There already is. There's constantly been on whether Ten Hag is the right guy or not. I'm not going to tell you who he is or he isn't. It's my opinion is whatever on the matter. It's been kind of done to death. At the same time, I really would like there to be more. I don't want to. There's a lot to play for this season. And so I think it'd be better for everybody as a team, all of us, as fans and all of that, to stick together and hope for the best for the rest of the season right now, and see if we can't do something. I mean, no matter what happens, it'd be really good to get Champions League, right? And I don't want to really get into managers too much until or unless something is stated or announced on that. So, Yeah, that's what I have on that. Okay, so this has been an hour and 10 minutes. I'm going to end it soon here. If anybody has any further questions, anything that they want to say, um, let me know before I end this. I think that I've answered everything on all of this at this point in time. Let's see here. Let's see if there's anything else. Ineos considered Ole for Nice. Is it? No, he won't come back to United right now. No, I don't think 70 million for Braithwaite seems extortionate. I think a structured deal, maybe 50 plus add-ons that could reach 70 would be more fair, but I don't think it's extortionate. Do you think we'd have to choose between Braithwaite or Onana? Potentially, yeah. I do think potentially. I mean, unless we've got some good make-weight players, like they really want Scott McTominay, who knows, Harry Maguire. You never know. You never know. Obviously, if they get relegated, that'd be different, but I don't think they're going to get relegated. I think there's a chance Anthony leaves. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I don't know about a sale because I don't know who would buy him. The whole situation with his legal situation makes it more complicated too, but he's definitely not like nailed on here. There's been good talk of that from people like James Ducker and such. He's essentially for sale. Onana would be far more expensive than Holman. Yeah, I understand payments out to Ten Hag and such could affect it, but again, I think there's different levels of information either way. If they decide to change manager, I don't think that at the top end, 10 million is going to make a difference. If they decided to change manager, I don't think that 10 million makes a difference. I think Greenwood has a pretty low chance of staying, 20% maybe. I think after the FA Cup final, or if we were totally out of the running for Champions League, we'll see more clarification on this summer and the future moving forward. They do want to progress on talks with Dan Ashworth. It hasn't as of yet, but they do want to progress further on talks of Dan Ashworth to work out the starting date, which is the main sticking point and the cost associated with that before they get to the other hirings, ideally. That doesn't mean things aren't happening, as we know. I think the most likely thing is we end up with 1 to 2 center backs, 1 to 2 forwards, and 1 to 2 midfielders, and I really don't know about the fullback side of things yet. I think Fletcher could definitely stay in a different capacity, yes. Same with John Murtaugh. Same with even some other people. Yeah. I don't know how to give out of 10 for Olise. I'll just leave him in the green. That's the point of that. Yeah, one of the things they've been very proactive on looking at is on the outs. I mean, you have, Martial and Varane who could leave for free. You have, which frees up a lot of wages on its own. But then, looking at all the players that need to be sold is something they're definitely working on, because the more they can line up deals out, the better idea they'll have on their budget for ins. And they've been wanting to be really proactive on that at this point in time. I don't want to talk about other manager candidates right now. I just don't think it's right to do that at the moment. Either way. Garnacho to Madrid. Yeah, he could go to Madrid in the end. I mean, didn't we buy him from not Real Madrid, but didn't we buy him from Spain in the first place? He's an Argentinian. He's a Ronaldo. Ronaldo is his idol. Could he leave to Madrid someday? Absolutely. Do I think it'll be anytime soon? No, I don't think so. Yeah, I would personally, I would like them to clarify Ten Hag's future well before the end of the year. I think it would be sensible to do that. That's my personal opinion. I think they should make it really clear one way or another what is happening. I understand, like, the reason I say I take some implications is if he's going to be here next year, why not clarify it? But I think they should clarify it either way. Yeah, we'll do a live at least once a month. I'll try to do that. Malaysia, I feel like he's going to have to go on loan somewhere to work back up fitness. But hey, maybe, he'll be fine next year and he can just play again. Let's see. Do I enjoy being an accountant? I am not an accountant. Malaysia with Kate Middleton. There are rumors of that. All right, I think I'm gonna end it here and get to work because this is not my job. If I would do lives more if I had a little bit more time, but generally speaking, it's hard to take out a long time from my day to do this as opposed to recording a quick 15-20 minute video in the morning. It's hard to do that for me between all my responsibilities. I try to put as much time into this as I can to do this, but obviously it is not my day job, and it's not what I do for a living. But hopefully, I can continue to do this, and I definitely want to thank you all for coming and watching today, and being a part of this. It's been good. It's been good. I appreciate it very much, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all later. So enjoy the rest of your day. Be well, and I'll probably have another video coming out tomorrow with our tactics guy that I've done before with Darnish Iqbal. I should be doing a video with him tomorrow where he can talk a lot more intelligently than me about what we've been seeing the last few weeks, last few months, and maybe what we can do moving forward. So appreciate if you watch that as well. Okay, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all later.